Hello. In this demo, we are going to debug code that was generated by ChatGPT. So I asked ChatGPT to generate Python code for a web scraper to collect questions and top answers about Python from Stack Overflow. And it did give me an answer. So it did provide an answer here. So when I ran it, it is supposed to print the question titles and the URL and the top answer, but that didn't happen actually. So it didn't even give an error message. Nothing was printed and not even an error message. So I asked again, so I took this code and I put it on ChatGPT again, and I asked it to find the bug in this code. Now it was able to recognize that it was this code was generated by it, and it was able to recognize some problems and fix them. So for example, it mentioned something about the pagination here. So if we go to the link that was generated, yeah, there was no pages. Okay, so that was good that it was able to fix this problem. It also mentioned something about the complex structure of HTML of the Stack Overflow website that may be also the cause of the problem. But when I took that code that was generated in the second attempt and I tried to run it, let's see what are we gonna get. Again, nothing. So it was able to recognize and fix some problems, but it's not working. So we can keep going back and forth with the ChatGPT, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't think it's an efficient way to do to fix the problem. Now, using ChatGPT saved a lot of time by generating this attempt of the code. Now we can use our debugging skills to fix what is remaining of the problems. Okay, so I think that would be more efficient. But the question is, where would we start? Now, in the previous demos, there was a test case that failed and there was error message that gave us indication where to start and what to look for. But right now we don't have test cases. We don't even have an error message. Now we don't know where to start. So what should we do? Now, if we are going to be inspired by the delta debugging technique, we need to perhaps split this search space. Maybe let's just see how far it goes, how far the code goes before a problem may happen. Okay, now you can see here the entire code is inside this loop that loops over the number of pages. Okay, so inside this loop is what we need to look into. But we have these two statements here, and then there is an if block. So let's see if we split here and see if this if block is actually executed or not. So let's run it in debug mode. All right, now the status code is 200, which means that it should enter. So something was generated as a response, and we should be able to enter the log, which happened. Okay, now let's see if there's something coming here. Yep. So there is text coming in the response. Let's copy that. We might need to examine it. So I'm just gonna put it in this file here. It might be easier to examine it if we format it. So I'm just gonna format this document. Okay, now we have it. Now let's see. So let's see if we will be able to find anything here. So here we search for div with the class name question summary. So let's see if we're gonna find anything to enter this loop. Now length is 0, so nothing was found. Okay, So now the question is it because there are no divs or there are no class with this name? So let's see. We have the content here or the text here. So if I search for a div, now there are some divs there. Okay, so let's see if we can find the question summary. Okay, and there's nothing there. The two words question summary or question dash summary doesn't exist in what came in the response. So, okay, so what could be the problem here? Well, if we are going to be inspired by the comparison technique or the cross-examination technique, let's see if we can compare what we have to what would a response look like on the browser. Okay, so here we have the browser. Let's take the URL that was used here. Okay, so this URL, and let's see if we send this as a request through the browser. Let's see how the response would look like. Okay, now if we go view page source, and if we search question summary class, let's see if we can find anything there. Okay, so we can see that in the source code of the response that came on the browser, there is a mention of question dash summary, but in the response that we have here, there is no mention of the question dash summary at all. So that's one problem, obviously. Now, how come the response that came here is different from the response that came there? So let's have a look at the response object itself. Now, that was a hint that given to me by a colleague that you can view what came in the response either using the text property or the content property. Okay, so we can use the cross-examination again here to see if the content property may look different than what came in the text, and then compare that to what's the response in the browser. Okay, before I stop the code, I'm gonna send this request object to the watch. So there should be add watch somewhere here. Add to watch. Yeah, so I'm just gonna send it to the watch here. And I wanna see what's inside the content property. Right, I'm gonna copy the value and put it in a different file here to examine. Okay, and we format it just to make it easier to navigate. All right, now if I search for that question summary, yeah, so it does. Okay, so this content property looks more like what comes in the browser, so the response that came in the browser. So maybe that's what we need to look into. Okay, so that's one problem. And the other problem is that the question dash summary is used as an ID, not as a class name, and it has a suffix there. Okay, so it is not used properly in the code. So the actual class name is would be one of these. So let's say we're gonna take one of these to use in the find method. Okay, and that would be the second problem. So we found two problems here. The first, that we are looking into the text instead of the content, and the second is that we are looking at the wrong class name. So let me just stop this session and fix these problems. So content instead of text, and there the class name that we saw there. Okay, now let's see if we're gonna find anything there. Okay, so we do find the all the divs that have the class have the question summaries. Okay, so that's good. All right, now let's stop the session. Hopefully this would fix the problems. If we run it in non-debug mode, let's see if we're gonna get anything. Oh no, there's an error message now. Okay, so that's good in concept, because an error message with a line number is good. So if we go to that line 25, and it says that none type doesn't have attribute text, so it seems like nothing returns here. And the error message is because we're trying to access that this nothing and trying to find a text property there. Okay, so that's good in concept, that we know where to start here for this particular problem. While we are at it, we can notice that there is duplication here. So this problematic call for the find is repeated here. Okay, so let's just eliminate the duplication. Okay, so that should be the question. Okay, so it looks for the anchor tag and then takes the text from it to have the title, and then takes the href from it to have the URL. So maybe we can call it question element. And I'm just gonna copy this, remove this and replace it by the name of the object that hopefully we're gonna fix it so that it will return from the find. All right, and now we eliminated the duplication, so enhance the quality of the code while we are working on it. Now let's see why is this problem. Now we already figured out that the class name was a problem there, so maybe we can have that as a hint and look into whether this class is the correct class or not. So this is the div that we are looking into. All right, now let's see the anchor, how the anchor look like there in the original code. Now this is the now here. So here's the anchor that has the question link and the question title, but the class there is called is link. All right, so that we can fix it this way. You take the class name and replace it here. Now let's see if this is gonna work. I'm just gonna put a breakpoint here. All right, did we have anything? Yeah, so we did have the anchor that has the href to the question page and the text. So this is what we're looking for, so that fixed this particular problem. Okay, so we have the text here, the title, the question title. Okay, and then this should bring the URL. So let's step over this and see if it's gonna bring it. Yep. All right, and now let's see if we're gonna get the answer or not. So it didn't find an answer. So is that because there is no answer, or should we be suspicious about class as well. Now we can check here if this is the URL that we are supposed to look into. Now let's see if this question has an answer. Right? It doesn't have an answer, so maybe that's why it couldn't find it. Okay, so let's try another question. Okay, I'm gonna run it until I find the next. Okay, so we have another question here. Now, at least some of them should have an answer. Now, let's see if if we are lucky if the second one has an answer or not. So we should be looking into this URL. So let's see. Now, is there an answer for this? No, there's no answers there. So how about this? We put the breakpoint inside the if statement. Some of them at least must have an answer. So we only stop when we find an answer. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue. No, that doesn't look right. It seems like there's a problem there. None of them have an answer. That is not right. There's no way. Like we ran through all of them and we didn't stop once inside the F blog that would get the answer. So that's suspicious. Okay. So question is, how come we couldn't find any answer? So let's start here. Now, where are we looking? We are looking inside a container. So now if we follow that dependency tree of the container, what is inside this variable there? What is inside the container? So the container is one of the divs that were found in question containers here. So these are just the divs that has the summaries of the questions. Okay, so at a time we are looking inside the div that has a summary of the question. And that's not where we should be looking. So what is missing here is that we need to be looking inside the page that comes in then and there is as a response to this URL. All right, so obviously this is what is missing here. So we need to look into that page. So we need to request it and find another response based on that URL. Okay, so, oh no, we don't need to generate the URL, sorry. We just needed to generate the response based on the question URL. Okay, and then create the soap based on that response. Okay, and instead of looking into the container, we need to look into that soap that's based on the answer URL. Okay, now let's see if we're gonna find anything there. Right, I'm gonna move this and then let's see whether we ever gonna stop here. Yeah, so we found one. Good. All right, so that's good in concept. Now let's see if we are going to get the answer from there. No, the error again. None type, trying to access the text in a none. So something wrong here. Now we can be suspicious about this class. Now we don't have to be suspicious about this because something came as a response. Now let's see if that's what it was actually correct. Okay, so that is a correct div, but something wrong with what's inside. Okay, now let's try to find one of these divs in one of, let's see, take the URL from here. So that would be cross-examining or comparing to the same response that the code is looking into. Okay, so there is an answer there. I hope your answer, no. Okay, so there's one answer. Okay, so how can we find the correct class? So maybe we can look into the source page again. If we look for something called answer. No, that's a long list. So there's 76 use of a word answer. So maybe that's not the best way to look for what we need to find. So perhaps if we just use the inspection tool here. So that would give us like a visual indication of which part of the HTML are we looking into. Okay, so we can see that there is here's the body of the entire page, and then there is the header. Okay. Okay, so we need to get into the content. We passed it. So we don't want a script. We want the so that's the entire body of the page. Now let's see here. The container div that is called container is where the contents are. We look a little bit deeper. So as the sidebar, there is the content. So the content is what we're looking for. If we go there, so the content would have the div for the question that contains also the answer. So if we expand it, okay, so the inner content, you see that. So the ChatGPT was correct about the complex structure of the HTML, okay, but it wasn't able to navigate through it automatically. So we're gonna have to do that manually, at least to figure out what is the correct classes, what element that we need to look for in the code. Okay, so this would be the question header. So if we scroll up a little bit here, so this is the question header, okay, and this is just the intermediate div main bar. Okay, so the main bar has the question and the answer, so we can look into that. Okay, so this part is where the question is. So if we happen to want to extract the body of the question, not just the title of the question, then this is where we look into, where we look for, but this is not what we want so far. We are looking for the answer. So we have a div that has the answers. So we are getting closer to what we're looking for. And here we go. So there is the answer there. All right. Now the answer, if we look into it, it has, I mean, the actual answer is not directly at this div or a child of this div directly. So we need to navigate a little bit more. Okay, so let me just scroll this down so that we can see what we are looking at. So right now we are here. Okay, so this is the side bar there, and then here is the answer cell. Okay, so let's look a little bit deeper. Now, this would be the answer body. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So this is the div that we're looking for. Now, the classes there are spose or JS post body. So let's use one of these classes to be the search criteria here. Perhaps before we restart, because we're gonna miss that URL if we restarted it, I can add this to the watch and fix it there to make sure that it's gonna be fixed instead of have to recreate the comparison situation. Okay, so if I change this to one of the classes that are actually used, yeah, an answer comes, yeah, and it does contain the text that we are looking for. Okay, so that is the fix of this problem. Okay, so let's try that. All right, so we still have the breakpoint inside the if statement, so it will only break when we find an answer. So let's see if we can find any answer there. Yeah, should have found one. Let's see if it will actually come. Yeah, so the primary issue with your code is that you forget. Okay, so let's go to that URL and make sure that this is the correct answer. Okay, so let's see. The primary issue with your code is that you forget. So it's good. That is the correct answer for that question. Now let's try another one. Okay, so there's another answer here. Should print it. Yeah. All right, so let me just remove the breakpoint and run the entire program. Hopefully it will not break at any point. So some questions didn't have answers yet. Some did. So when there is an answer, the answer is printed. All right, and that's gonna keep going for a while because we have 5 pages, but we can say that we did fix the problems with the code that was generated by ChatGPT. So congratulations, we fixed the bugs.